All right, just a note about craftsmanship before we move on. So one of the things you're graded on, actually it's a quarter of your grade, is your craftsmanship. So how neat is it? And one thing you can do to improve your craftsmanship right now is to get rid of any of the pencil lines that are left behind. So I see pencil lines here. I'm going to take one of the large erasers at my table. I like to use the white erasers because sometimes when you use those pink erasers, they can leave little streaks behind. So that's one thing I'm going to do, erase all those pencil lines that I didn't get covered exactly when I went over the Sharpie. The other craftsmanship thing that I should do and can do right now is to take care of any lines that don't meet up or that go too far over. So what am I talking about? Well, as I look at this line, here, I stopped drawing and started right there, but they don't actually meet up. So I want to go over and just connect all my lines. So I'm just checking my entire drawing. Now here, the line went a little bit over. So I might want to thicken the line, if possible, to make it so you can't notice that mistake. I'm going around everywhere. I didn't get all the lines erased over here, but right here, these two lines don't meet up. Right here, they don't really meet up very well. So any spot where I have drawn and my black lines don't meet exactly on the line, then I'm going to want to go back and fix. So it just is one little thing of craftsmanship that I can do to make my grade even better. So at this point, I am ready to start with my color or painting. So this is going to be a color wheel. It's a six-step color wheel. The first thing I need to do is label my color wheel in rainbow order, starting at red and going around till I reach violet. So it doesn't matter where you start. I'm going to write it right next to the slice. Red, orange. All this area out here is going to be cut out later. Yellow, green, blue, and finally violet. Yes, it is important that you write those in order. All right, so I have those labeled, but I'm still not ready to paint just yet, because besides just making a color wheel, we're going to be dealing with this idea of complementary colors. So in this book, I can see that I have a color wheel here. And this color wheel actually has 12 steps on it. So not only does it have the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, it has secondary colors, orange, green, and violet. It also has these intermediate colors. So I have yellow orange, yellow green, blue violet, red violet, and red orange. So those are made from unequal mixing of primaries, or if I want to think about it a little bit more simply, it is I make yellow orange when I mix a primary and a secondary color again together. So what you're going to be worried about though is complementary colors. So complementary colors are the colors that are exactly opposite on the color wheel. So right here, the example they have shown is orange and its opposite blue. Those are complementary. Any color on this color wheel has a complement. So I can look at red and go right across the color wheel and find green, and then I can use yellow and look across the color wheel and find violet. I can do this for any of the intermediate colors also. So if I look at red-orange and I go directly across, now I find blue-green. Those two are complements. They are very, very different colors, and when you mix them together, they usually make very dull or brownish colors. So that is the complementary colors, and here's how we're going to use it on ours. On ours, each slice is going to have one of the colors be dominant, violet in this case, and then it's going to have an opposite color in there as an accent color. So if I look across the color wheel from violet, I'm going to find yellow. So on the outside here, I am going to write violet, that's my dominant color, and I'm going to write in yellow also. That's my accent color, which is the complementary color. And since you're supposed to have 12 spaces on here, what I'm going to ask that you do is that you make at least 9 of the spaces violet and then 3 with yellow. So if you have more spaces, you're going to have to figure out what spaces you make what color, how many are the dominant color, how many are the complementary color. It's really up to you, but you do want to make sure that this slice, this little pizza slice that is violet, that more than any other color, it has violet. When I don't see violet, then I'm going to see yellow. One of the things we're going to work with also, besides complementary color, is value. So when you mix these colors and you paint them, what I'm going to ask that you do is you make different values of the same color. So for instance, I'm going to be doing violet, and on your painting, you're going to have some areas that are very dark violet, you're going to have some that are very light violet, and then you're going to have some that are very, very pale. So in order to do that with watercolor, you just have to add more water. So here's what I'm going to advise you to do to start. You're going to take a brush. You choose a brush that works for the space that you have. You're going to have your water set up. You're going to have your paint set. It has your number on it. This one's 30. And then you're also going to want to have your paper towel close by. Now, if you are right-handed, then you should put all of these on the right-hand side of your workspace, and then you just turn your wheel around. So I'm going to be working in violet. Here is my paper towel. Here's my water cup. I want to work really carefully so I'm not spilling or dripping and making a mess. So I'm going to take my paintbrush. I'm going to get it wet. Now when you get your brush wet or you clean it, I want to make sure that you're swirling and you're not smashing it in there. So we don't want to give these brushes a bad hair day. So I'm going to get wet. I have to get my color wet that I'm going to use. I got to get that wet first. And before I paint directly on the paper, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this wet. I'm swirling, 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 and I'm going to put it over here on the side. And I'm going to try to gauge how dark that is. This is watercolor. So you should have a pretty good amount of water in there. We want watercolor to be transparent. Transparent means I can see through it a little bit. So I'm going to start painting, and in here I'm going to have all different values of violet, and I'm going to have all different values of yellow. So the first spot that I paint, I like to paint in the edges first, so I know that I'm being neat. I'm going to paint this area. So this is probably as dark as I want my violet to be. I don't want it to be opaque. I'm staying inside of my lines because I'm being careful. I want the area to be nice and even, so I don't want some thicker areas and thinner areas. I want it to be all even. Now it takes a while for it to dry, so I'm going to just leave it be for right now. The next spot that I paint, I'm going to add a little bit more water to this puddle of violet over here because I want different values of violet. So I'm going to add a little bit different, or a little bit more water, and now I'm going to paint this area. Now I don't want to paint the area that's right next to a wet area because it will start to bleed in. So I'm going to paint this area, and if I need to later, I can come back and paint over it with another layer to make it darker or more even. So this is the next spot that I'm painting. I'm trying to avoid brush strokes. I am staying inside of my lines. At least I'm trying to. This is a little tricky because you're going to get the paper wet and you won't be able to tell exactly what color the finished color is going to look like until it's dry. So oh no, I almost ran out of paint over here. before I finish this. And that would be tricky because if I had to mix up more of that exact same value of violet, it probably wouldn't be the same. So I painted that area with violet, but I ran out of my paint. So I've got